Hello, we're live and welcome back to my channel. My name is Francis, and this is Find Her Freedom Career Break Convos. And this is the second installment of Career Break Convos. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining. Um, don't forget, of course, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, definitely drop them in the chat. And on this channel, we talk about all things career break related, travel, reinvention, and rest. And so, Career Break Convos basically is, for those of you that are new, is a conversation or conversations that I have with Black women who have either had a career break or are in the midst of a career break. And as I mentioned, this is a second installment. I'm really excited to have this conversation with Nichole Knight. And I have a lot in common from the same part of the world. And now she's basically on the other side of the world. So I'm going to bring her to the stage and allow her to introduce herself, and then we'll get started with the conversation. Hey, Nichole.
Hey, Francis. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for reaching out and agreeing to take part in this conversation because you have a great story. And I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Absolutely. Well, again, I appreciate and thank you so much for having me and for creating this amazing platform that I think is so needed, especially for us as Black women. I know when I was going through my journey, there was not a lot of things out there that I could look to or that I could find that could support me on my journey. So thank you for all the wonderful work that you're doing. And to the listening audience, my name is Nichole Knight. And where do I begin? It's such a story. But currently, I am based in Bali, and my journey started. Well, let me say this. Like Francis, I am also a native Virgin Islander. I'm born and
Mhm.
raised in the United States Virgin Islands, and it's just so amazing that we can be so far. Uh, uh, be so close together, but yet so far apart because we didn't know each other when we were in the islands, but we met each
Nope.
other. Uh,
The
we
power of
met
the
each
internet.
other. The power of the internet and
Yep.
on our and just having similar stories and similar journeys, and that's the beauty of the internet, as Francis says. So, um, I mean, would you like me to just talk a little bit about my background and leading up to my break, or?
Well,
Um,
I think what I'm going to do is I kind of have
Mhm.
questions that are going to take us down the road. So I'm just going to jump into the
Sure.
questions. I'm
Sure.
going to remind everybody that's out there to definitely, if you have a question, put a Q in front of your question so we can pick out those questions. And we already have somebody out there. Hey, Rhonda, thanks for tuning in.
Hey,
Welcome.
Rhonda.
So, I guess the first question and question that I typically ask, like in my last one, was, how did you know that it was time for you to take a break? Now, I know a little bit of your story, but I'm going to let you tell it.
Absolutely. You know what? The how did I know was something that was staring me in the face for probably well over a year, Francis. And really,
Mm-hmm.
it started with my health. And
Okay.
over the course of about a year and a half, I was battling some major health issues. And honestly, I'll be honest, I hadn't made the correlation as to what it all meant. But really, it was a series of it first started with back pain, all right, and then that increased to digestive issues. Ultimately, it went to insomnia. And so these were
Mm.
things that were just being compounded on top of each other. So it was the back pain, it was the digestive issues, it was the um, insomnia. And then when it all came to a head was when I ultimately had like my first like panic or anxiety attack. I didn't even know, never had experienced that before. And ultimately, I was speaking to a girlfriend, and this was in September of 2022. I was speaking to a girlfriend, and I was just word vomiting to her. I couldn't get my words out fast enough. It's like, and I said, on top of all this, I'm like, I can't sleep at night. And she's like, oh my gosh, Nichole, she says, it sounds like you're having like a panic or anxiety attack. And you should speak to someone. And so fortunate for me, I hadn't been in therapy during that time. I'd done therapy in the past, but she says, my sister is a therapist. Let's see if we can get you in with someone. And so because of my connection to her, her her sister was able to put me directly in contact with a therapist. And I think I spoke to her like maybe that afternoon or maybe the very next day. And so it was just kind
Okay.
of talking through sort of like what was going on with me. And
Mm-hmm.
what ended up happening was at the end of that call, it says, and on top of all of this, it's like this is the month that I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so she kind of just heard my story, and she says, oh my gosh, Nichole, she says, you are probably, I said, she said, uh, you have high functioning burnout, and it's all kind of come to head because you're now having anniversary PTSD, which I didn't even know that was a thing, which means
Wow.
my body was recalling the moment in which I had been diagnosed with the breast cancer, but I hadn't made the correlation. So my body was remembering, but I
Wow.
hadn't really made the mental note. And so
Yeah.
all those things together is ultimately over the course of a year and a half, going to doctors, taking tests. I'm talking MRIs, I'm talking endoscopies, I'm talking colonoscopies, all for them to try and figure out what was going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
And no one could tell me. And so at the end of that conversation, ultimately she says, I need you to take some serious time off. And I
Okay.
said, okay, what does that mean? She's like, you need to go on like a leave of absence. Like you are, this is only going to get worse, and you really need to take some time for yourself. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where it all started. Was sort of like that September of 2022. And Francis, let me tell you something. It took me 3 months to get to the time off that I needed, and I can
Really?
share
Was
that
that by
story as well.
choice?
You know what? It was so interesting because I was more worried about the job and what that looked like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
team. I had an
Yeah.
amazing team. I was in an executive leadership position at my company. I was the chief operating officer at my company, and I had been with my company for at that point probably 15 years, and I loved my job. Like I truly loved my job. I love the
Mm-hmm.
team that I work for. It's just that I think it was a culmination of a few things, which is I think as we get older, and this again is something they don't teach us as part of the evolution of the life that we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to live. We get indoctrinated into you go to school, you get the job, you have the kids, the way
Mm-hmm.
big events. There's never an exposure to the idea of living your most fulfilled life, right? And what I don't think people realize is that that moment, whether it's talked about or not, it's going to come, right? It's going to come
Yeah.
knocking your door one day, and it's going to be like, okay, well, this was fun, but what now? Right? What now?
Exactly. That's
How are you
exactly what
living
happened
your
to me.
most expansive, your
Mm-hmm.
most expressive, your most meaningful life, right? And I think if we're doing life in a certain way, and if we're paying attention, more of us have that calling or that knock at the door. It's just that we're so out of it, we're so distracted, we're in such survival mode
Survival
that
mode.
we
Yep.
don't have
Mm-hmm.
time to actually open the door and say, hey, hey, you, who are you? Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And so it was a combination of one, not knowing what that calling was, to like, okay, well, you need to take care of your health, but it's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more than needing to take care. My body was definitely telling me something. And what I know now is that my life was just calling me towards something bigger,
Mm-hmm,
towards
mm-hmm.
something bigger, towards
So,
something more meaningful.
so I'm curious, when
Mhm.
after that 3 months and you finally said, I really need to take this break, how did you approach your employer, and were they or were they not receptive to you taking the time off?
You know what? So here's what happened. um, I I knew I needed to take the time off. And so I did reach out to my HR department to try and figure out what that looked like. And I worked very closely with my doctors. And I ended up having to work with two doctors in conjunction, because there was the mental side, and then we essentially worked with my primary care physician to connect up the dots as to how one was impacting the other and vice versa, right? So I needed both those things essentially to be connected and work in conjunction with each other in order to
Mm-hmm.
um, take my essentially a medical leave is what I ended
Right.
up taking, right? A
Mm-hmm.
medical leave of absence. And so um, the correlation between all the ailments that was going through my body, the fact that I could show a, a history on the physical side of the having to take all the tests, having the back pain, having the just I mean, I had so many tests over that year and a half. It's crazy. And as you know how insurance works, like you can't take all of them at one time. Like you've got to like eliminate one thing and then the next and the next and the next. And so for the
Mm-hmm.
past year and a half, I've been taking so many exams. And so one of the things that was very frustrating was because one of the things I did recognize in my body was that whenever my digestion would be sort of like, or I would call it a upset tummy, I would always make the correlation that that's when my back would really start to like flare, and I would have these debilitating back issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there were moments when I couldn't even move. I could hardly walk, right? And
Right.
so what I did was I contacted my HR department first. We started down the road of kind of filling out those medical papers. And
Mm-hmm.
I really just kind of had them in my back pocket, sitting in my email inbox, because I just did not know how to bring up the conversation. Because again, wearing the strong Black woman hat, you don't want to let anybody down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell you exactly. To the day, the moment so I had the papers filled out, ready to go, and they were in my inbox, and it was December 28th, 2022, which was my birthday. I picked up the phone. I called my boss and I said to him, I remember this conversation is so clear in my head. I said, hello. I said, today is my birthday. And I know there is never a good time to have this type of a conversation, but as a birthday present to myself, I'm letting you know that beginning a week from today, I'm getting emotional just thinking about this, I will be on medical leave. And the reception was nothing but supportive. My boss said, he says, well, happy birthday, and let us know what you need. And
What I like about the way you said that is
mhm,
you were telling him, you weren't asking him for time off. You said, today is my birthday, and I'm letting you
precisely right.
know I'm taking
Precisely
it
right.
down. You weren't saying, I want to know if, or is it possible? Mm-mm. And that's what I like.
That was my birthday present to myself.
Hmm.
That was me giving me my what I needed for my birthday. So you're right. It
Correct.
was not a it was not teed up as a question or an inquiry or
Permission.
maybe or permission. None of
Right.
that. It was really it was just a
Awesome.
statement. Yeah.
Awesome.
And again, I'm fortunate because I know sometimes when I hear some of these stories, some of us are not leaving the best types of environment.
Mm-hmm.
But I really truly had the opposite experience because one, like I said, I've been working with these people for a very, very long time. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it's like ultimately you do become like a family, right? And so there was
Of
genuine
course.
care, genuine concern. I'm the one that put the stress of, oh my god, what's it going to look like if I take this leave? Am I going to be letting folks down? I'm the one that put that on myself. But um at the end of the day, my company was extremely supportive, and
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have any issues. And so that
And how long were you
really,
out? How long was
yeah, that
your
really
your
was the
leave?
beginning, yeah, beginning of the end. And so when I initially left, it was for initial, I think 8 weeks
Okay.
was the initial timeline. And
Mm-hmm.
then that just, again, that was just the beginning of the end of my journey. I got on a one-way plane ticket to Bali. And, it was one way at the time because I really didn't know how much time I would need. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just drawn to, there were two things that brought me to Bali, which was one, I had another dear friend that was just needing, it was so interesting how it happened because I'd ran into her in Miami, and she says, "Oh my God, Nick, I'm going to Bali, and I need to go on my own sort of a little journey." She's like, "You should come," and that's what kind of turned the switch on for me. That maybe this is my window. This is my window
Mm-hmm.
to heal myself, pour into myself, and so I ended up on that one-way ticket to Bali a week later after that
Mm-hmm.
phone call with my boss, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just an incredible journey that's led me to where I am right now, which is right here in Bali.
In Bali, in Bali.
Right here in
So,
Bali.
did you have
Mhm.
any fears about going to Bali on a one-way ticket?
You know what? Interestingly enough, I did not, because I'd been visiting Bali uh, over the course of, probably that was 2022. So my first visit to Bali was in 2016, and I'll share how I got introduced to Bali. Um, as part of how I managed my stress in the past, I'm also a big advocate of, just maintaining yourself. And so I fell in love with yoga at a very young age. And so throughout my corporate career, I would go on at least 2 to 3 yoga retreats a year. That was really how I managed sort of like, the stress and all the
Stress.
things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I got introduced to Bali the first time, was that I came here on a retreat with a friend that was hosting a retreat. And over the course of maybe the 2 3 years following that, I'd probably been back like one or two times. So Bali
Okay.
wasn't new to me. Yeah. So
Okay.
it
Okay.
wasn't a brand new thing to me. I was familiar with Bali. I was familiar with sort of like the healing parts of Bali. And so that's why when she threw it out, it was like, oh my God, the timing of this. It's like, yes, yes, you need to get back to that grounding and that healing and looking into yourself. And I think a lot of where this went off rails for me was like starting with COVID, when we sort of like got grounded.
Mm.
um
Mm-hmm.
we had people that left the company, so I ended up having to take on a little bit more. And so when I look back on how I ended up getting to that point of like where I just wasn't feeling good in my body, it was just a series of things that were happening, life
Right.
happening, that I realized, oh my God, Nicole, like you really haven't taken time to like, really look inward and take care of yourself. And so,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's how I ended up in Bali. It wasn't new to me. I wasn't afraid to get on the plane and go. But when I got
Okay.
here, it healed me in a way that was I couldn't have even imagined. And
And so you
I'm
stayed
happy
the
to share that as
entire
well.
2 months in
I
eight
ended up
weeks. You
spending I ended up spending 3 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So at the end of the 2 weeks. So when I
Mm-hmm.
got here, if you don't mind, I can share just kind of like some of the things that I ended
Of
up going
course.
through
Yeah, yeah.
in order to heal me. And so when I came to Bali, I walked with all my medical records.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate enough to have people that I knew here, but also got introduced to new people in more of the healing community. And so I ended up working with two healers. One was an acupuncturist, and her name was Dr. Bobby. She's my, and another one was Dr. Putri. And Dr. Putri specialized in ozone therapy. And like I said, Dr. Bobby specialized in intense acupuncture therapy. And so my first visit with Dr. Bobby, and I go and I brought my records, and she's sort of doing like my intake, and she's checking my pulse, and we're sitting there for like 10 minutes. She doesn't say anything. And then she looks me dead in my face and she says, and first, let me describe Dr. Bobby. So, Dr. Bobby is probably like this 70 something year old woman. She's from the Midwest. She's been living in Bali for about 35 years and practicing Eastern medicine for almost 50 years. Okay. And
Wow.
so she looks me straight in my eyes and she, does her assessment. She says, "What do you do for work?" And I'm like, "I'm in finance." And, I give her the whole spiel. She says, "Whatever it is, you need to stop it." She's like, "I can't even feel your pulse." She's like, I said, "Really?" She says, "No." She's like, "I can hardly feel your pulse." She says, "Your body is literally, it's running on fumes," is essentially what she
Wow.
said. And she says, "You need to get out of your head." She says, "You need to stop overthinking so much." And I'm like, "Yeah, I tend to overthink a lot." She says, "You have to stop." So that was really sort of the beginning of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did deep, intense acupunctural work with her, which were like also combination deep therapeutic work. Like we would talk through like childhood stuff, and why
Mm.
I ended up going down the road I was going down, why didn't wasn't speaking up for myself, just a bunch of different things,
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
And she also ended up, because one of the things that we know was wrong with me was that I had an inflamed digestive system. My
Mm-hmm.
colon was completely inflamed, which is why I wasn't able to digest the food that I was eating. And
Okay.
what my other doctor, Dr. Putri, was able to explain was because my colon was so inflamed, it was
Mm-hmm.
pushing on nerves in my back. So that's where my back
Mm.
coming from. And
Makes
so,
sense.
yeah, it made so much sense when she like drew it on a piece of paper. But I've been going to
Mm-hmm.
Western doctors for a year and a half, and nobody could make that correlation. When I would tell them that when my stomach felt upset, my back would hurt, they would say, "Oh no, one thing doesn't have to do with the other. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's in my
Yeah.
head."
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got down the road of just completely detoxing my entire digestive system, via Dr. Bobby, she put me on like a diet that essentially just wiped everything out. And then with Dr. Putri, I was doing the ozone therapy. And I'm not, are you familiar with ozone therapy, Francis?
No, 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 not at all.
So so ozone therapy is when you've heard of like the ozone gas, the ozone
Mm-hmm.
layer around the earth. So
Yes.
basically there's a machine that is able to recreate this gas,
Okay.
ozone gas. And
Mm-hmm.
what they would do is they would take a pint of my blood and they would inject this ozone gas into my blood, and then they would reinfuse it into me. And so all that
Mm.
was what was helping with the inflammation. So there was a lot of inflammation in my body, right?
Okay.
That was a
Okay.
result of the stress. My
Mm-hmm.
hormones were completely out of balance because of the stress. And because those things were out of balance, there was a lot of inflammation in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So the detoxing via diet and the ozone therapy is what helped to quiet that inflammation in my body, right? And start to put me down a path of just feeling so much better. And
Yeah.
the reason that original 8 weeks turned into a month, turned into 3 months, was because at the end of the 8 weeks, I just didn't feel like I was 100% back to where I needed to be. And so I ended up having to add another 4 weeks on.
Isn't it amazing how, you can be having an issue in one part of your body, and it's like a domino effect. One
Absolutely.
thing affects the other, affects the other, affects the other. Yeah,
It is absolutely, and the thing about it is, in Western medicine, they're not taught to look at the whole picture because everybody has their special modality, and
especially right.
and so it's like when I'm telling my gastro guy in the States that when my tummy hurts, my back is literally like killing me. It's like, oh no, well, I don't know what that could be. I don't think it's related, yada, yada,
Mm-hmm.
yada.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on so many different medications, and I'm not a big medications person because I've always kind of in the back of my head just been to sort of into the fact that the body should be able to tell you what it needs, and you should be able to heal it. And
Right.
I was doing. He told me I had acid reflux and indigestion, so I was doing the whole gamut. As soon as I stopped the medications, the problem came right
Came
back.
right back.
And
Right.
when I
Yeah.
got to Bali, I was eating like my diet consisted of white rice and like boiled chicken because everything I ate would send my stomach into a tailspin. And so I
Wow.
narrowed it down to like two or three things that I could eat that would just keep my stomach feeling like a little bit normal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was just a journey, and like I said, the beginning of the end, really.
Right. Of a new chapter. So let's
Yes,
talk
indeed.
about you're or you were in finance. That's your background. So how did you prepare financially to make a move like this?
That's an amazing question. And just, it's one of the things that I'm so passionate about right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because fortunately for me, my background is in accounting. And my entire career has been in sort of like the finance space.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just from a very um, early early age, essentially, I I lucked out, right? Just based on the field that I fell into. And so I'd always been a really good steward of my finances in terms
Mm-hmm.
of investing, in terms of saving. And I do a lot of these types of videos on my YouTube channel as well, just wanting to help women get healthy with their finances for when that
Right.
that knock on the door that we talked about earlier
Mm-hmm.
comes. It's like you have a good financial foundation for being able to choose yourself, is what I call it, right? It's kind of
Right.
like back in the day, I would call it my FU money, but
Mm-hmm.
really what it turned out being was it turned out to be my choose me money, my choose me foundation.
I like that.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I think that's the other thing too that we need to understand, that is that when you are a good steward of your finances, you really set yourself up and you put yourself in a position to move through life in a way that you don't have to take a whole lot of stuff. So when I tell you I truly enjoyed my job, I truly loved it, I really did. But if I ever got into a situation where maybe I didn't love it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I called it the FU money at that
Walk
point. It was
away.
like the walk away
Mm-hmm.
part, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
um that day's gonna come, you never know when
Right.
it's gonna come. And so I did, to answer your question, I've always been a good saver. um I've always been a really, really good saver. And so I had investments, and I also
Mm-hmm.
had savings that put me in a position to where I got back from Bali. I didn't know it then because I thought, oh, I feel better, I can go
Mm-hmm.
back to work. But I also
Mm-hmm.
made a promise to myself in Bali. I said, if I go back to feeling just even 0.001%. If I felt that feeling coming back when I went back to work, I knew that it would be time for me um, to walk away. And so within a month or so of being back, those feelings started to come back,
Feeling
where I
came
started to
back.
feeling the anxiousness, the just uneasiness in my body. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to go. And so I sat down with my boss once again,
Mm-hmm.
and we had just great discussion. And so we, because again I was an executive at my job, I didn't want to leave them in a lurch, and so I submitted my resignation to leave out at the end of that year. So December 31st, 2023 was my last day.
So let's go back a step. So you
Mm-hmm.
get back from Bali after 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to work,
Mm-hmm.
and within a month, you were like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So how many months was it between that realization and when you actually left?
So that would have been end of April. So another
Mm,
8 months.
like
So I
eight
submitted
months.
my resignation uh, to just again help um, find a replacement, onboard a replacement, just all those things. But the
Okay.
countdown, yeah, the countdown started towards like the end of April.
Okay. So at the end of 2023, you said,
April 2023, right? Because I left to go on that leave at the end of December 2022. Got
okay.
back like the end of March, and then by that April, I was kind of departing.
Okay. So now you're out of the job completely.
Hmm.
Did you already have a plan as to where do I go from here, or were you just gonna kind of just see what happens? Like, where were you? What was your mindset?
My mindset was, and so I'm so glad you brought up this question because it's a great question. Me personally, I did not have a plan. My plan was to make sure that I was in a good, healthy position mentally and physically. That was the main, that was the goal at the time. To not
Okay.
go down the road of experiencing all the health issues that I was experiencing, the anxiety, the panic attacks, the
Mm-hmm.
insomnia, the indigestion. Like my main goal was just to get myself into a state where my body was my nervous system was essentially back to normal, and I wasn't having those feelings again. So I did not necessarily have a plan as to what my next chapter would look like, outside of the fact that I had a good financial footing in order to
Mm-hmm.
not have a plan, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're done with the work. What do you do next? You've left the job.
So I'll tell you, 2024
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing year. And actually,
Okay.
every year since then has been amazing. But that first year, I basically declared 2024 my year of rest.
Okay.
And that rest, and this is something I'm also passionate about. So rest is also one of the pillars of my channel, and I talk to that a lot because up until that point we get guilted into believing that rest is something that we should earn. It's not something
Mm-hmm.
that's like our god-given right. And
100%.
fundamentally for me, I've been working since I was like 13 years old. Like all I knew was work. I'm the oldest of
Mm-hmm.
five. So, we got eldest daughter syndrome. Like, being the oldest, having to be a role model for my siblings, having to show up, take care of everybody. I just was used to just holding all the things together for everyone else, right? And never
Mm-hmm.
really just asking myself, what is it that I want, right? And so that's what I did. First year I spent resting, and when I tell you I slept a lot. I slept
Good for you.
I slept a lot. I slept a lot, and I also used 2023 to make up for all the lost time with friends and family. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would just take these trips to go see like my twin niece and nephew, and I spent like maybe a month with them. I took another trip to go see my goddaughter, spent like a month with her, and just doing things that I didn't even realize that. So I was taking like my goddaughter to the school bus and picking her up because I don't have any kids, so it's my nieces and nephews and my god, and so just like doing regular things that like I turned into
The
a kid
simple
again. Like
things.
the
Yeah.
simple things, you know,
Yeah.
my niece and nephew, they're into dance. They had, you know, we would be have dance offs. Just it was very childlike. It was very innocent. I just really went to a place of like joy and fun, and most importantly, resting. And so I saw friends, I saw family, spent time with my
Hmm.
mom, my sisters, my brothers. So 2024 was really a year of resting and just reconnecting with, you know,
Awesome.
people that I had lost time with, because so much of my time was spent at the job
At the
working.
job. Yeah, 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 for
Mhm,
sure. And
mhm.
so at any point after you left the job and you're resting and just having family time, did you ever think about work or working again? And if so, in what capacity?
Absolutely. So yes, I did. And when I say work, I it was work in a form of looking inwards and saying, what is it that you want to do now? Like
Hmm.
you have this gift of time, you have this gift of freedom, you have this gift
Freedom.
of location. What do you want to do?
Hmm.
And I, you know, if you speak to any of my friends, they would say that I've always had this passion or this calling in me to help support women to get clear about their finances. And I that seed was planted because, one, like I said, I sort of fell into like the money industry of finance. But
Hmm.
more importantly, the people that I work for over the past 20 something years were ultra high net worth individuals. So I worked for three
Mm.
billionaire families over the course of my 20 something year career. And when I say work with them, I mean work with them very directly, managing their assets, their portfolios, their lifestyle, and just really getting like a very clear insight into how like wealthy people really live and how they treat money.
Hmm.
And being introduced or exposed to those principles at such a high level really sort of like changed my relationship with money and what it was supposed to do for you,
I bet.
right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it did. And one of those things, one of the pillars that these people always spoke to was this idea of the money. Yes, they had an abundance of it, but the way they
Hmm.
talked about it, it wasn't from the standpoint of getting more things, more material things, which
Hmm.
is what a lot of us associate, you know, money with, right? Wealthy
Right.
people,
Yeah.
they're not thinking like that. They're thinking about legacy. They're thinking about the choices. They're thinking about freedom. This is what the money allows them to have. And because I was
Hmm.
kind of introduced to sort of those philosophies very early on, that's how I started to treat my money. And that's how I ended up with the, you know, the choose me bucket, right? It's like
Right. Right. Yeah.
the and so I was very fortunate in that regard. And so my passion has always been to help women to get clear and build a very strong foundations around their personal finances.
Awesome.
And it's something that I realize even now in 2026, with all the things that are out there, all the, you know, we hear the buzz terms financial literacy and wealth generation and, you know, all these things.
Hmm.
When I'm talking to women today, even today, there's still a disconnect. There's still a disconnect from their finances in terms of how they treat money, in terms of how they respect money, in terms of understanding that money is something that you can use as a tool to
A
really
tool.
create, yeah, a
Hmm.
tool to
Yeah.
really create your freedom life. It's not about buying all the things, spending on credit cards.
Stuff.
You would be shocked. You'd be
Ooh,
shocked,
yeah.
even in the knowing that shopping on credit cards, not being able to maintain a budget, spending out to, even knowing that these things are wrong,
Hmm.
they're still not getting it. And so
Yeah.
my pat what I do realize is that I was speaking to my friend about this the other day. Money is such an emotional thing, and people don't make that correlation. They don't realize that a lot of times how you're showing up with your money is tied to your emotional relationship and how money was introduced to you as a child,
Yes,
right?
I agree.
And
100%.
and yeah, and so I
Mm-hmm.
I I have a workshop that I do, which is called the money mindset rewrite workshop, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm introducing women to the concept of really digging deep in order to kind of heal their relationship with money, really digging deep to even understand where the relationship with money first started. Because once they have that awareness, because a lot of people do not have that awareness, once they have that awareness, now they can start hopefully making better decisions
Yes,
around their
yes,
finances,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So the passion work now is what I call it, is really just supporting women on their journey to getting healthy with their finances so that they can essentially have their choose me bucket of
Bucket,
funds.
yeah, awesome.
And for when that day comes, right? So if you're younger, you know, maybe you can start earlier, but maybe if you're a little bit older, it's not too late either. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can really buckle down, get a handle on your finances, and start to make some, you know, probably be a little bit more of an intense exercise.
Yeah,
If you're a little
it's
bit
totally
older.
possible. And people think that because they're gotten to a certain age that it's too late and stuff like that. But I have a 22-year-old, and I one of the and then I also have a nephew that's around the same age, and I tell both of them, I said, you guys have the gift of time on your side, and you got to start now. And so I told my daughter, when you get your, she had a part-time job at the time. I said, here, go to Fidelity. You're gonna open your account, and every time you get paid, you get the automatic transfer, and it goes straight to Fidelity, and then you buy your shares, and you just keep doing that. I said, oh, she said it and forget it, but you have the
That
gift
it
of time, so you need to use it, because if I knew then what I know now, I would have been doing it when I was 20.
Francis, you literally hit the nail on the head. What set it and forget it is literally a term that I use throughout the entire course of my wealth generation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I literally would put money into accounts that I had no access to. My paycheck would go directly into, I mean, you should see my pay stub. They're like three, four accounts, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
would just, I would just, if you don't see it, you can't spend it.
Yeah.
I would never have checks issued on them. I would never have bank cards issued on them. And I would just
Forget
set it
about
and
it.
forget it,
Yeah.
set it
Yeah.
and forget about it. And doing that has been one of my greatest wealth generators. The investing in your company's retirement plan also. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the accounts that I have is an account that I've been rolling over into my different jobs since I had my first job at 21,
Wow.
right? Every
Mm-hmm.
job I took, I rolled and I rolled and I rolled,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And that account is well into the millions today, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're right. Your nephew and your daughter, they have the gift of time, and it's such a beautiful thing. And the other thing that I would implore them to do is, and I speak about this on the channel as well, is not to, like, I call it lifestyle creeping, which is another key
Yeah. That's
factor
another
to
one.
how
Yeah.
I was able to save money. Was that for that first, maybe all through my 20s, if I got a raise at my job, I never increased my lifestyle to
Mm-hmm.
meet that income. I just lived off of the original salary that I had. And that was also a huge game changer as well.
Yeah, because you just keep those blinders on, and you
Yes.
continue to live the life that you had always been living, and that money goes there, and it's just the beauty of compounding. It's like it's
It's
unbelievable, mind
amazing
blowing.
once you see it, once you see it, and that's the but to your point, though, Francis, right? To the point,
Mm,
especially in the day that the world we're living in now, right? Nobody wants to wait on anything. Everybody
yeah,
wants it now. Everybody
no,
wants the $10,000 month. You don't have, just do it. Get your digital product, and you'll have $10,000 months. Do this, do
yeah,
that. Nobody. We're living in this microwave society where it's like I want to put it in, give it a little 2-minute ding, and all of a sudden I'm a
now for
millionaire.
now.
Not it, and I we there needs to be more. There needs to be more. Unfortunately, that's not what comes up in the algorithm, right? That's not what
Yeah,
comes up on the
not at
algorithm.
all, not
This
at
whole
all,
set
not at
it
all.
and forget it concept that doesn't come up in the algorithm. What comes up in
Mm-mm.
the algorithm is, all you have to do is create this thing, and you're gonna have $10,000 months. Run an ad, you're gonna have $20,000 months.
Mm-hmm.
It does
No.
not work like that. Realistically, the I, also, and I know I'm referring to my channel a lot, but um, I did a video on the fact that the majority of millionaires in the United States are regular 9 to 5 working people. The
Mm.
majority of them. The
Mm-hmm.
majority of millionaires in the US, and I think I ran down the top 10 professions for what they are. And one of them, which
Yes,
would
I
be
think I
hard to
saw that.
believe,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, one of them
Mm-hmm.
would be like one of the professions, top 10 professions was like a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
education, right? So how would they, and we always hear how education pays poorly, but
Correct.
it's really your discipline around the money that gets you to where you need to be and what you're doing with the money, not necessarily the career. And fundamentally, it takes time. It's not going to happen
Yeah, it
overnight.
takes time. It does. It does. So I have two more questions before I let you go.
Sure. Hmm.
Um, the first one is, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a woman that is contemplating taking a break? What would you tell them?
You know what? Um, I would tell them that taking a break, or if you're being more in particular, if you're being called towards a break, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's in your wellness, in how you feel, stress, whatever it may be, I would tell them that they should absolutely choose themselves. And sometimes all that break, or we're calling it a break, but in the way that it's happening, it's all part of the calling to the next phase and stage and expansion of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And once you take that moment, or you step out into taking that break, is when you create a space where you can now start to hear yourself again without all the outside noise.
Noise.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's where that journey is going to begin. If you're being called towards the break for whatever reason, I would encourage you to do whatever you can to take the break
Mm-hmm.
so that you can start to hear yourself again.
Yeah, to hear
And
what's
once
next.
to hear what's next, because we
Yeah.
sometimes we're in such survival mode, we're such in the human doing instead of the human being, that we do not hear what it is that our internal selves is trying to tell us, because it's the social media, it's the work, it's the kids, it's whatever it may be. And so
Right.
we've literally been taught, if you think about it, and this is by design, I fundamentally believe so. This is by the design of the system to keep us busy, keep us occupied, so that we don't ever hear what it is that we truly want. We're doing what everybody else in society is telling us
Yeah.
that we should
Yeah.
want.
I agree 100%. Definitely. So, and this is my last question before we go.
Mhm.
Tell me, now that you've gone through all of that, you know, you had the health challenges, you took a 3 month break, went back, was like, nah, this is not working. You left, you took your year of just being free in the world and stuff like that. What is life for Nichole like today? And the reason
Oh
I
my
ask that question is because I want women to see what's possible. So, what's life in Bali like for you today?
oh my gosh. Honestly, Francis, I don't think there are words that can describe. And it's so many things. There's so many pieces and layers to it. The first one, and I just wake up in gratitude every single day, is just how I feel in my body. My
Mm,
body feels so good. Like, I mean, when we talk about, I mean, this might be TMI, but the idea of even just going to the bathroom regularly, that
mm-hmm,
was something that didn't happen. Like, my
mm-hmm,
body, my nervous system, my digestion, like, I can like tap on my belly and it actually goes in because it's not
mm.
inflamed.
Wow.
So I'm so grateful in this season for my health.
Mm. Awesome.
That is the number one thing. And then just the idea of being able to live in a place where um it it it's Bali has a way of just kind of holding you and supporting you. I don't have to
Mm-hmm,
worry about my skin color. I don't have to worry about walking down the street and men looking at me in a certain way. I'm just able to like the microaggressions, I don't have to deal with any of it here, right?
okay.
And it's just so refreshing. And And so, besides my health, life for me today looks like just waking up. I have freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom to be able to help the women that are in a similar season of their life
Mm-hmm.
and support them fully in whatever their journey might look like at this time. And just
Okay.
pouring into me, choosing me every day. And
Awesome.
I
I
know
love
that might
that.
sound a little, yeah, it might sound a little selfish, but
Not at
at this
all.
stage and age in my life, I really don't care what it sounds like.
Not at all. For me, that's like how it's supposed to be.
I
You
wish,
know what
you
I
know,
mean?
yeah, no, I agree. My greatest wish and gift, I say this all the time, is that for women, women of color, that we all get just a season
Mm-hmm.
to be with ourselves. And maybe it doesn't lead to, you know, a forever thing, but even if it just starts as a career break or sabbatical or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it might look like for you, I think it's really an opportunity for us to go within, look within, and really start to hear our inner voices again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the wrap up. What I would like to do, I've already linked your stuff in the description, but I want you to still talk about, you know, what you're doing now and what's next for you and what you have out there in the world. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks, Francis. I appreciate that.
Mm,
So yeah, I mean for like you said, you can find my information in the video description. I'm on YouTube. I actually just started a YouTube channel. Well, not just, I'm at towards the end of the challenge right now, but I've been working with a coach, and for the record, guys, I'm a big proponent of finding people that know how to do the thing that you want to do and using them as support to get to where you want to go. So I've taken on a 100-day YouTube channel with my coach, in which I'm just showing up on YouTube every day and just sharing my rich life is what I call it, because my brand is called the Freedom Chaser Club, and our slogan is "Freedom is the new rich," and that rich, RICH, stands for rested. Remember, I mentioned that early. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
pillars of my brand. So R is for rested. I is for intentional living, which is something that I'm doing here in Bali. C is for cash flow and making money moves, because I know that is a huge part of why women may feel that they're not able to choose themselves. And so with this pillar, talk about the things that I did in order to create the financial foundation that I have now. So those things, some
Mm-hmm.
of the things we just talked about, which was like the savings and not the lifestyle creeping. And then as part of the cash flow part, what I'm doing is I've made myself a guinea pig essentially, to where I am learning, teaching myself how to create income online in this season of my life. And so
Okay.
it's been so much fun. And
Okay.
I've been my goal is to take women on the same journey as part of one of the things that they can do to kind of create that financial foundation for themselves. And then the H in rich stands for health and wellness. And that's where we just kind of focus, is such a huge and important part for me, which is something that I share with guys. I just kind of take them along the journey of all like the health and wellness things that I can do here in Bali. So like that ozone therapy that I mentioned, some of
Mm-hmm.
the biohacking modalities like the red light therapy, cold plunge sauna, salt room. So just kind of introducing people to sort of like all the different things that you can do in the health and wellness space that we might not necessarily be introduced to in the US, but they're there. It's just that they don't talk about it,
They don't
because
talk about it.
they
Yeah.
don't talk about it because, if you try to heal yourself naturally and in a way that is that you're supposed to, then, of
Mm.
course, then the medical industry, they don't get the insurance checks, right?
Yeah.
So
The medical
uh,
mafia. Mm-hmm.
the medical mafia. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you follow me on YouTube, you get introduced to my rich life, and that's where I just kind of introduce you to all those pillars. And yeah, it's been a fun ride so far.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. I enjoy following you and looking at your videos as well. So, Nicole, thank you so much for spending the last almost an hour with me and with, the people out there. I just want to say to everyone out there, definitely check Nicole's links out that I left in the description, as well as my own. If this resonated with you and you can think of any woman in your life that it would help, definitely share it with them. And I invite you to like and subscribe to my channel as well, for not only the next episode of Career Break Convos, but my own videos as well. That I am have a goal to be a lot more consistent with my own posting. I don't know if I could do every day like you, Nicole, but
It's so funny, Francis,
hmm
because I didn't think I could be that person either. Okay. But what I do know is that
mm,
that exercise is what has given me so many other things. So visibility to like platforms like yours. And I've
hmm
had like maybe two other three platforms that have reached out to me. And I'm
good
sharing
for
this
you.
information because it's one of the things that I want women, it's one of the things that I'm doing as part of the making income online, because YouTube is really like an amazing funnel for getting
Mm,
people over to your service offerings as well. And then there are
right.
just so many other things that you can do, right? Like once your channel gets monetized and you have like you can get ad revenue. So there are just so many different things. But what I was going to say was that doing that exercise is absolutely what's prepared me for like platforms like yours, where now because I've shared my story so fluidly and so consistently, I'm able to have these conversations without like second guessing myself, right? And so
hmm
it's
hmm
absolutely built sort of like a muscle and a
Right.
confidence in me and a speaking acumen. It's really done like on a lot of amazing things. And
Right.
so
So it's
I
been
would
good
encourage you.
practice.
Very good practice. Very good
Awesome.
practice. Yes.
All right, Nicole. So yeah. we're gonna call it a night. Nichole, hang out for me for a minute. Um,
Absolutely.
but we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.